This show is sponsored by Sevi, answering all your commercial real estate needs. Sevi is the first commercial real estate company committed to the 4 C's: commercial real estate, community, content, and culture. Go visit Sevi at Sevi, SEVI, properties.com. Again, SeviProperties.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you. I have Dr. Minnie Cruz-Tolentino. Dr. Cruz is the founder and medical director of My Wellness Physicians. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, Otto.
Of course, the pleasure is all mine. Before we get into your personal and business journey, I like the audience to get to know the business a little better, just in case they haven't heard of My Wellness Physicians. And we're like, what is that? Who are they? What do they do? If you can give us a brief explanation, what do you folks do over there?
Ooh, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is up here. I apologize. Hold on. I don't know what happened. Yes, so My Wellness Physicians is a weight loss clinic, wellness clinic, located here in Leesburg. I am a board certified family physician and I specialize in obesity medicine. So we've been around for the last 2 years. And yeah, so that's basically what I do. And we take a look at your weight loss, wellness, and put a more holistic approach to it. So it's not just here's your medicine, see ya, it's really delving deep down into your health. As a physician, if I see that a patient has some chronic issues, we also put that as a goal, not just to lose weight, but hey, your goal is to maybe cut down on that blood pressure medicine or etc. So it's a more holistic approach to weight loss.
I love that. That's great. I can't wait to get into it, especially
Yes.
with
Yeah.
all the new drugs and medicines that you're hearing right now, as far as how that's affecting people. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. So, are you originally, doctor, from the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia area?
So I'm a Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, and my parents and I migrated here. I think I was 8 years old. So we settled in Connecticut, and I grew up there. When I was in high school, I had, in the Filipino culture, the parents take care of their kids until, whenever, until they get married, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And even for school, there's no student loans, there's no you taking care of your own college tuition. So most of the parents is your, that's where you get your student loan from, I guess, So when I was I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I really wanted to become a doctor really at a young age, probably from my grandfather. Maybe he embedded in me. I don't know. He's like, when I get older, you're going to be my doctor. So it kind of got in my head, and I do love science. I love science. So that was my track in high school. I loved the science classes and stuff. So when my parents were like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I want to go maybe become a doctor, and looking at the tuition and whatnot, when you think about it, it's very expensive, and it's years and years of schooling. Again, in the Filipino culture, we don't have that student loan kind of thing. I knew my parents wanted to pay for my tuition, and I didn't want to put that burden on them, with them kind of like working hard for my tuition. So I had a cousin who went back to the Philippines, and I asked her some information about it and stuff. I was like, oh, well, maybe I could do that, And we would go to the Philippines. I love the medical missions, and I thought, well, this is kind of nice too, and can incorporate that. So I ended up going back to the Philippines for my bachelor's. Believe it or not, I'm actually a zoologist.
Oh, wow.
Well, no, that was my bachelor's, but
Yes.
we joke that I'm a zoologist, but this just it was my pre-med
Yes,
is
yes.
zoology, really. But I joke with my kids, like, is your mommy's really a zoologist? Like, nah, because they love animals and stuff, But no, I didn't practice that. So that's where I ended up, and I went back to the Philippines, and there was it was a culture shock because growing up here, and then going there, it was different. The age difference, it's different.
Was that your
I lived.
first time? I'm sorry, was that your first time back to the Philippines since you had a,
No,
okay,
we had some vacations here and there, but like living there, it's different,
sure, sure.
So I stayed with my grandparents, my mom's parents, and they're very conservative. So that's another thing. I grew up. My parents are very cool. They're not super duper liberal, but at the same token, they embrace change, and they let us do whatever we want, and teach independence and all that stuff. Living with my grandparents, who's quite the opposite. So that was a little challenging. And, I'd be on my phone with my mom, like, grandma's like this and whatever. But yeah, it was nice to really, honestly, I think it was, looking back now, one of the best decisions going back there. I felt like I was able to spend time with my grandparents and, my roots and whatever and all that stuff. When I came here, when we came here, my parents really emphasized the language, Tagalog. So my mom, she would not talk to us in English at home. She would talk to us in Tagalog, and we had to reply to her in Tagalog. And if we replied to her in English, she'd pretend like she didn't know
To
what we're
ignore
talking
you.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but obviously it just happens where we have kept up, but when I went back to the Philippines to study, so I had a good knowledge of it, but still it was like kind of broken Tagalog, and I enhanced it as I stayed there. Now, after college, that's when I went to the Philippines. I stayed there for med school as well. So I was there pretty much for 8 years. I would go back here for during my summer vacations to spend time with my family.
I'm sure your Tagalog improved a lot during that
Oh
8 year
yeah.
time frame. Yes.
Yes, oh definitely. Yeah. The reading and reading comprehension and writing still sucks, but yeah, as long as I can understand. Although I have to say my husband makes fun of sometimes my Tagalog, and I can never fight with him in our language because I start to, he would just start laughing.
Yeah.
I guess I don't say it properly or have a fight with him in our language.
He's
Um,
Filipino as well.
he has actually met him there.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
It,
Yeah.
it's easier when the household where both parents speak that foreign language.
Hmm.
As far as keeping up with it, I'm sure you mentioned children, so I'm sure you have children on your own, and
Hmm.
I don't know if you do speak with them in Tagalog, but it is definitely helpful where mom and dad or whatever partnership is in the household, that nucleus has another foreign language and both parents can speak it, and therefore the child, hopefully, if a parent wants, can assimilate and understand it better.
Yeah. So our firstborn, I had her in my last year of med school. She does know how to speak and write it. Actually writes it better than me. The two little ones, I have an 11 and 8, all girls. And they, I kind of feel bad because I never really pushed it,
Hmm.
the language, and they can understand it, some words, some state, some some little things, but for the most part, they can't really speak it. So every once in a while, I would go into routes. Okay, let's do the teaching, and then I forget, but they understand some things. So yeah.
Yeah. How
Mhm.
old is your oldest?
She is going to be 21 next month.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Hmm.
21's a big one.
Yeah, it's kind of weird having an adult child.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, she's gonna be a senior in college
Okay.
this year. She goes to William and Mary. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, what part of the Philippines are you from, Dr. Cruz?
So, we from Manila. I was born there, and we're kind of boring because in the Philippines you have provinces. So, when you're in college there, and it's same as here, right? You go back home.
Hmm.
So, because where my college was is in Manila, I don't have to go home like in the province. So I have like friends who are like, oh, I'm going back, I'm going to the province, etc. I'm like, how about you? I'm like, I'm just staying here. So I don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess it's like being in Virginia and people go back to Texas or Maine and you're like, oh, I'm just going to, 2 hours away, going home
Yeah.
2 hours away kind of thing. Yeah. So,
No,
but
that's great. I mean, in the DMV area, there's a big Filipino community. One of my good friends I grew
yes.
up with, is from Cebu, and he always
Mm,
tells me,
mhm.
he's like, "Hey, let's go to the Philippines. We can do different islands." And
Oh yeah.
maybe you've heard of him. He's a good friend in Klein. He's the chef and
Mhm.
owner of Kuya Jazz, Lechon
Oh
Belly.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been there. I
yeah,
patronized that store, that restaurant. Oh yeah, he has good stuff.
yeah, Jaja. So I put him there many years ago, and we always chat. We grew up together. So yeah,
Yeah, he has good
very,
stuff.
very beautiful country.
Yeah, you should go, definitely. Yeah. So, like I said, I went to the Philippines for college. And then in med school, I think I was in second year med school. I met my husband in college, but I guess we kind of dated and got together in my second year of med school. And we ended up, getting married. And I always thought I'd go back here, because remember the purpose is going there to just for school and then
Hmm.
practicing here. And when I met him, there was a little period of time well, he's here and he doesn't really have aspirations to leave the Philippines. So I said, well, maybe I'll try it, but it's tough there when you're just starting out. And even though both of us are doctors, and then we just ended up, you know what, let's just come back here. So I brought him here with me. Now, he was 2 years ahead of me in med school, and he did practice medicine in the Philippines while I'm still finishing up. So throughout the 8 years, I really enjoyed doing a lot of medical missions. So, for the most part, I joined I have a group in college. We would do medical missions during March, April. And then my husband, when he had practice in his church, we would go. Now he had a province. So now when I got married, I got a province now. So it was like about 3 hours away from Manila. So every other weekend, we would go visit his family, and he for Sunday after church, a couple of hours just to treat some patients and stuff like that. So, and then every once in a while, I would join a big group of missions and go to some of these places in the Philippines. One of them was pretty remote, so that was really fun. So we were there for a week long. Hopefully, eventually, like in the future, when I'm point where I'm kind of retired, maybe, I don't know,
Hmm.
I'd go back to doing those things. So it's very humbling experience. Yeah.
Sure, I'm sure. You would want to do that internationally?
Yes, I'd actually maybe probably do in the Philippines, perhaps. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd go back there. Yeah, there's a lot of need, there for doctors, especially in the remote provinces and stuff. So every once in a while, probably later on. So
So
that's the plan.
when you came back to the States, Dr. Cruz,
Mhm.
and you brought your husband, was that his
Mhm.
first time coming to America, or he had already?
No, yeah, it was his first time to
Okay.
come. And he actually, so he came here, he was going to do so when you go enter residency, when you apply for residency, you have to be certified this exams called USMLE. So it's like three exams basically that you have to pass, become
Hmm.
certified, and then you can apply for residency, which is once a year. You missed the boat one time and you got to wait for the next year. So he had actually uh, gone into public health. He did some masters in public health, and I was the one who did residency first. So
Hmm.
while he was doing public health, I was doing the whole residency. When we came back here, I didn't have my exams yet. So it was kind of like, he was supporting me while I'm studying my exams using his public health. He was in the health department for several years. And I got into residency in mid central New York, but I guess
Hmm.
they call it upstate. It's in Utica, New York. Now I've never been into like I lived in Connecticut and I never knew New York was had that kind of area because we always go in the city, you know.
Hmm.
And I remember up it was January when I interviewed. I took the Amtrak. I got to the station. It was 6 o'clock. It was empty, snowing, a lot of snow. And I was like, where the heck am I? But like, I got into that program. It was a family medicine program and pretty much stayed there for 3 years while my husband, it was a very weird dynamic. So I moved to New York to do my residency. The challenging part was my husband's job in Connecticut is really, really pretty good. You know, he loved his job and his boss kind of didn't want him to go away. So and the same token, he was trying to find a job in Utica, but the public health wasn't as robust as in Connecticut, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So we had this he had a job in Connecticut, couldn't really find a job that would fit him in Utica. I have this residency and we have this child. So she was 5 years old at that time. So that was a big challenge for us. I'm thinking about it. I was like, well, this is residency. We know how challenging time and all that stuff, and she's starting school. So my mom, who's retired in the Philippines, said, well, I could take care of her, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna come here? She's like, no, you can bring her here. So, for 3 years, which was one of the hardest decisions that we had to make, I was in New York, Utica, New York. My husband was in New Haven, Connecticut, and my daughter was in Manila, Philippines for three
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah. So it was a very tough decision, but looking back, it was actually, again, one of those things that I'm glad it happened. My daughter, the way I looked at it was she got to spend time with my mother. It was a gift to my mom that she was able to spend time with her granddaughter. My mother-in-law, she and my mom had become very good friends during this time. She was a teacher, and she would come over to my parents' house and teach my daughter every so often. They became good friends. Even went to Hong Kong together, all three of them.
Oh,
And yeah, they went to Disneyland there. They took her there, so they got to travel. And my daughter, at the same token, she was able to see the culture. That's how why she knew how to read and write better than me because
okay.
she was immersed in the culture and she speaks and understands it very well. Um, and my mother-in-law had passed away 10 years ago. So she was able to due to cancer. So looking back, we always say it's so glad that my daughter Sydney was able to spend time with my mother-in-law during that time. Um, yeah, we missed some of her, like the 3 years of her life there, but I
Sure.
think like it was a good gift for, I guess, for that's how I look at it,
Yeah.
for all of them in a way. Yeah.
No, it is true. It is great. And it must have been tough for you just because here you are, away
Oh
from your
yeah.
whole family, your husband, your daughter, and you're just basically up in Utica by yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. My husband, he's another thing too. He would every Friday, I don't know how he did it, but every Friday he would drive from Connecticut to Utica, which is like about 5.5 hours every Friday, and then go back to Utica every Sunday. And this is for 3 years. Maybe I could count in my hands how many times he didn't go. Like
Hmm.
because even if I'm working on the weekend, he would still come up and visit. And obviously, it's a worry when it's snowing very hard or there's a snowstorm or something like that. But he would still go. So that kind of was, how we were for that 3 years. When I had graduated from residency, I got a job at a residency program in Maine. So I moved the family to Maine. Now my husband finally was able to, tell his job like I really got to go.
No.
I can't drive back and forth Maine and Connecticut now, kind of thing. So he actually they said, okay, we'll do consultancy work, and it was supposed to be just a 6 month thing, but he ended up staying for 2 years, I think, with them while he was finishing up for his own USMLE because he wanted to. I was pushing him to do residency, and funny enough, we talk about Zoom. I found a picture of him just the other day where he had was wearing a suit, a shirt, tie, and shorts, and he was doing this 10 years ago with like I guess FaceTime. I can't remember what it was.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but isn't that funny? That was way
Yeah.
back when as well. So he was doing that kind of remote work 10 years ago. So yeah, and then we ended up in Maine. We loved Maine. We rented a lake house. The Belgrade Lakes was behind us. It was one of the most beautiful experience that we've had. Um, it was a faculty, a residency program. So we got a little bit, I get a little bit of teaching. I love to teach. When I was in residency, I did a lot of, you kind of partner up with younger resident and you mentor them and stuff. So that's where I kind of got this passion of teaching. So when I was offered the opportunity in Maine, so I really took that just because it was kind of in the academia track. And I was honestly surrounded by these amazing, brilliant doctors, and they've like published and they really love to teach. So I enjoyed that a lot. But then my husband got into residency where I did my residency. So we moved back to Utica for another 3 years. And I continued on. Our family was growing at that time. When I went to Utica, we had our second child. There's a 10-year gap, and I couldn't really do faculty teaching. I was going to go in that track. However, because of my growth in our family and et cetera, but I did some community preceptor. I would still have residents come and I would just precept them for outpatient. So there's still some academia in there in a way. Yeah, and every now and then they would ask me to present the morning report and I would do that and stuff like that. It just keeps me kind of like in tune to what's going on because I got to read and articles and journals and stuff. On his last year of residency, that's when you kind of look for a job. During that move back to Utica, I did notice that every time it's during the season of winter, I get somewhat a little bit, not depressed, but like low energy. And, it's like, what is this? I just couldn't stand the snow anymore. It's just, it was getting to me, the darkness and whatnot. So I told my husband, if you want to continue working alongside you, we got to get out of here. So Virginia. So that's kind of where I had a friend who was going to move to Virginia. And I was like, Virginia. So I did this extensive, year-long research about Virginia, literally like demographics, crime, population, school. I mean, literally like every day
Everything.
I was just where are we going to settle, things like that, And funny, I was thinking of Fairfax County. I was like, wow, look at this. It's near Dulles. It's surrounding like my family in New York. So I was like, oh, it's 5 hours from Staten Island. It's like really central, and you get a little bit taste of the city in DC, but then suburbs and enough like if you don't want the city, you can go there. So, and then if you want to go down south, it's not bad. South Carolina and stuff like that. So, when we around January, his last year of residency, midway, we ended up coming here for a job interview, both of us. It was at an urgent care job. And yeah, we loved it. It was funny because remember, we are in Utica and it's like, 20 degrees, 10 degrees, it's cold, whatever. And then you come here. We were laughing because 60 degrees or 50 degrees, people were wearing their like winter coats and the hat and scarves. And we're like, oh, we're so hot, so it's kind of neat. And we were like, wow, this is great. It's like January, it's like 60 degrees in January. Like this is unheard of. And there's no snow in January. So, but yeah, so we ended up taking that job. I left the whole academia idea out of my mind. I said, well, I'm happy where we are right now. At least in my career, I was happy. And when we moved to Virginia, instead of settling in Fairfax, I don't know how we ended up in Loudoun County. So I live in Leesburg. and that's where we ended up. And then our third child was born here. So we kind of make fun of our kids because they were all born in different states. So so they were our last daughter was born here. So, and we've been here since, and this is the last. This is like the end. We're not moving anymore.
No more moves.
No. We were kind of like an expert in moving, by that time. So I said, this is where we like where we are, So that's how we ended up. That was about 8 years ago.
Okay.
So we've been here for about 8 years. We really love the area. How close it is in the airport and everything else. We take now the train. There's a metro in Ashburn now, so I take my kids to DC for the museums. It's a nice lifestyle. Yeah. Now the urgent care job, it was good. Both of us. The only caveat is working obviously on weekends and holidays. It's the kind of lifestyle that we've always known. Especially because when we were together in med school. So it's kind of like normal for us, even our kids. It's normal not to have dinner at night with the family, but we always make a point once a month. We would always ask or request some time off. So once a month, we would just do some mini vacation, whether staycation or just driving up to Pennsylvania or going to DC. It's like a little thing that I've kind of gotten with my kids that yes, we don't spend the weekends together like normal families, but this is our normal. But we have that once a month kind of thing that they grew up like mini vacation, or
That's
they got
nice.
mom and dad to themselves,
Sure.
without work. Yeah. So that's how we kind of navigated up until COVID. So yeah.
Were you and your husband by any chance working in the same urgent care center?
Yes, we both worked at the same center,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, same company, but
Okay.
different centers.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, we have all different. We can't be in the same center, but there are times that we do work together. So that's always fun. I mean, he's a colleague, but he's a
Yeah.
little bit of a jokester with some of the nurses. So especially if it's a new staff and they don't know that we're married. So he would always make fun, like, who's that other doctor who's eyeing me or something? Or it's like, she's checking me out. Oh my God. It's like, what are you doing? And the nurse is like, is that even appropriate? I'm like, what are you doing? So he
So
loves.
so the last names are different then.
What's that?
The last names are different. So people would not know it's this you got okay. All right, that's
Yeah.
good.
So my because we got married in my last year of med school, I already knew I wanted to have so Cruz is my maiden name, and I just hyphenated his name. So I
Tolentino.
really
Okay.
wanted, yes, so he's Tolentino, right?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to keep my name
Sure.
because my parents kind of put me through all this, and it was like a gift to them that I'm the first doctor in my family. So I wanted to be Dr. Cruz, known as Dr. Cruz, and I still do use it. It's like for legal purposes that I put the Tolentino in there.
Yes.
So not a lot of people know that we're married because they know me as Dr. Cruz and they know him as Dr. T, so or
Okay.
Dr. Tolentino. So they get really pretty shocked when he does some silly antics like that every now and then, so but
Growing up with the kids, and I'm sure they were probably in extracurricular activities outside of school, how would you and your husband handle it? Did you have help, or since both of you
um
had crazy
oh
hours from the sounds of
yes.
it?
Yes, no, we had, I couldn't do this with help. My mom's retired, like I said earlier, but I didn't want her to come with us, and that's her retirement. This is her thing, and so we had a nanny, for a while, and then we had an au pair, and we had one au pair, and she ended up being our babysitter after as well. Uh, and now the kids are grown, so they're kind of pretty much on their own. Mm, our kids grew up really pretty independent because of us not being there and stuff. Like we all taught them that at an early age how to do this, how to do that, and they're very kind of trustworthy that they're not going to do this and that. So in terms of the home. So they have chores and all that stuff. We have a lot of boundaries and rules at home. Internet, for example, we don't do internet. They're not allowed any electronics until Friday after school, and they surrender it at before bedtime or 5 o'clock at Sundays. So they're not allowed to touch any during weekdays at school. And if it is the summer, we're a little bit more lenient. We do let them have electronics, but they have to do their chores and they have to read first. So all that stuff. We have certain little things, and in the beginning you monitor them. Now they're very good. They know that they have to do all that before they can touch any electronics. So, but sometimes they don't want to. Extracurricular, my kids are not very sporty. No, they are not very sporty. They're very artsy. So a lot of it are trips to Michael's and doing a lot of like crafts at home. I have a lot of that. And swim was very important, swimming. So that's the only like thing that I kind of have them do. Now they're like into the music stuff a lot. So, but in terms of like, sports, no, they're not very sporty.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely help. I always try to have somebody help me out, especially with us working the way we are. So, yeah.
Sure. That's great. So you were several ins to working in the urgent care, I guess maybe 5, 6 years in. Did you start then thinking about maybe having your own business, your own practice, or where? So
Oh,
how did
no,
that
no.
how did
Yeah,
that
I know,
thought start?
right? Yeah, so definitely like it was fine. We were happy, like I said. It was a
Sure.
good, thing. And then COVID hit,
Okay.
right? So that kind of turned everybody's world upside down. The first, I guess, lockdown it was, we were just happy to just have that job. But at the same token, it was very scary because, I am a sort of a news junkie in a way, not anymore, but I was. But so I'm always in the news about this and whatnot. And like always telling my husband, like, what's going to happen? We don't know what this is and all that stuff. Um, it was fine in the beginning. It was very scary because we don't know. And both of us are in the front lines, I guess you could say. And we devised like protocols in the house when after we go to when coming home from work, like the kids can't touch us. And you hear about it in the internet to say that's exactly what we did, like we dedicated one bathroom for just us after, and I had a bin with a lid on it to put all our dirty clothes. It's
Hmm.
exactly how it is because we don't know what this thing is, right? And we were really pretty good up until like 1 year, and we we didn't have COVID. And we were good about the whole COVID thing. I even got my first vaccine on a Monday, and he got sick Wednesday, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And we've been so good about it. It happens, So, and that kind of did a little bit of a big change for us because we were sick at the same time and not knowing knowing that there's no really treatment. So that was a really pretty scary thing because like what if both of us end up in the hospital? How about the kids, et cetera, things like that. So it kind of gave us a really, really different perspective about like what are we going to do in life in general and stuff like that. Um, but fortunately we were fine. And then that was that year of like everybody wanted to get tested, and it got like the hospitals and doctors' offices got inundated with patients, and we went from seeing maybe 100, 120 patients to like double that. And I'm pulling up the parking lot, and there's like a long line already, and I'm dreading it. I was like, oh my God, and there's shortages of doctors. They're asking us to work extra and stuff like that. Colleagues being sick. We were out for almost 14 days, I think, or 12 days. So who's going to cover our shifts, right? And there's two of us, full timers. So that's even harder. I mean, and so we kind of, it was fortunately we worked with a lot of colleagues that kind of, were understanding, and they're very, they would help you out and things like that. that summer, it was 2021, and it was that summer of, I can't remember if this must be Delta, that whole Delta thing. And we were seeing a lot of patients. Literally going into work at 8 o'clock. We weren't going home until 1 in the morning.
Oh,
We're doing
wow.
a double shift. Oh yeah, it was really like, and my at that time we were working a lot of shifts. Now my daughter, the eldest one, she grew up like this kind of way, right? With
Hmm.
us working this way. She never says anything. Now when she says something, we kind of like, oh gosh, she said something. And she said, you guys are working too much. And so both of us looked at each other like, oh, she never said something. Like she now says something. So it must be real. Because you don't really see because you're just
Hmm.
going and going. And I remember it was August, and I said, like, I can't do this anymore. I was just like, it's exhausting, like mentally, emotionally, physically. And I love to work. I love my job. Being a doctor, and I never really complain. And so my husband's like, "Oh, she said something." That's another thing. No, I can't see myself doing this. How are we gonna like? It's not sustainable. So that kind of gave me an idea. Like I have to find something, but what is that? I don't know. So I just, every night I would kind of like, what if I put my own business? Now my dad, did have his own business, in construction. Growing up, I was his first secretary. I was the first one I was the one who fixed his fax machine.
Okay.
He came to I remember he came to the office in the basement. It was just his basement, our basement at that time. And he had this machine. I was like, what is that? It's like, it's a fax machine. It was funny. But yeah, so I grew up kind of knowing and seeing him. Like again, I was his first secretary kind of thing. So, and he would always getting me involved. My brothers also had their own business. Like, oh, what if I put my own business? So I started kind of looking around. Um, and when I was in primary care, at one point I did, weight loss, not weight loss, but like I would help some of my patients with counseling with weight loss because of their chronic diseases. I was like, oh, weight loss is not bad. And there was no crazy, like now, like you probably know with the weight loss, your weight loss is not bad. I said, well, I started looking into it. There is an actual subspecialty called obesity medicine, right? And not a lot of people know about that. And I said, well, you can actually get board certified. I said, well, what if I get my board certification first and then put up a clinic? And my husband was like, why do you need a board certification in obesity medicine? You are a doctor, you have a license in your family medicine. Well, just start now. And I was like, okay, I guess. And I guess he was the one who really pushed me in that regard. It's like, why do you need to wait? Because it's going to take me a year or two, perhaps. So that was August, and I had that idea in August. September, October, I was looking for a place in October in 2 months.
Okay.
So it was like kind of like quick thing. And I said, I guess I could do that. I could like, rent a little room and do all that stuff. And then one thing led to another, and I was signing a lease in January. It was just that short span of time. So I always tell my patients when I introduce myself to them that this clinic was born out of COVID burnout, which is kind of true. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really kind of that COVID burnout. So here I am. It's been about 2 years now.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
we celebrated our second anniversary in just last month. Yeah.
So, since I'm in commercial real estate, I have to ask Dr. Cruz, why did you select your current space where you are today?
So I have a business coach. I obviously don't have any background in business, and that's what he had suggested. And after him explaining to me, it's actually a great idea. The foot traffic. He said you got to find a place where in there's foot traffic, you're being seen. And I love that idea actually.
Hmm.
And then you want to find a parking, in front of your clinic, there's parking in and out kind of thing. And so that's why I looked at a place where there's retail. So I'm located at the Village at Leesburg, which is a town center.
Hmm.
here at in the Wegmans. So now when I tell patients like, yeah, I'm in Village of Leesburg by Wegmans. So
Hmm.
it's so easy to kind of find me whenever
Yeah.
I say, do you know where Wegmans in Leesburg is? It's like, oh yeah, I know. Okay, that's where I am. So it's kind of nice that way. It just worked out that way.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
nice when you have that point of reference and you can say you're in the shopping center where Wegmans is or
Mhm.
another.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
exactly that
great.
too. When you think about it, like I have patients that are just quick weigh-ins or quick checks or whatnot, and they pretty much like just go in and out. So, and one of the things when you think about it, obviously it's weight loss, right? So a lot of the patients are larger. We took that in consideration. Yes, you can if you go into a medical arts building, you have to park your car. There's a lot of parking. It takes a while for them to go walk there. They got to take the elevator, walk and look for your stuff. So it was a lot of that kind of planning as well. Like it makes sense that you would have a place that's accessible to patients in that regard. Yeah.
Sure. So
Mhm.
now that you sort of got the space, opened up the business, sort of hung your own shingle, now you need to get everyone the attention of, hey, I'm here, come visit me. How was that?
Oh, okay. Yes. So when I hired a someone who did my social media because I knew their social media stuff. Now I am not in love with social media, and I'm embracing it now. That's how I use it. Yeah, I use
Hmm.
the term. But even before opening up, I opened my own business Instagram account, Facebook group, etc., things like that. And just really putting teasers out there. So I had a really great person. She's like, I thought I would start in when I started. She's like, no, 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 we got to start now and let people know what you're going to be doing and educating them about what you're going to be offering. And so during the whole planning process, renovation process, and stuff like that, I was putting content out there about obesity medicine, weight loss, who I am, what I do, things like that. Not that I'm speaking in it or anything, but like at least like posts.
Hmm.
So by the time I opened, when I signed my lease, when it was official, then I posted it on my own personal page, like, hey, this is what I'm planning to do. So actually, by the time I opened in April, so there's a lot of people already kind of like, hey, when are you opening? So I did have already a pool of patients, not a lot, but a pool of patients that I started off in that month,
Sure.
which is really good. Yeah, I already have that. But yeah, social media is a tough one. It took a while for me to embrace it.
Would you say now, from I guess from a marketing standpoint, is most of it coming from social media or from elsewhere?
Honestly, it's word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would say 50%, maybe 40% to 50% of my new patients every month are because of word of mouth. Now, my business is not like a car detailing, for example, business, right? Wherein there's a before picture of the car, you detail it, and there's an after picture within like an hour, or two or something. Weight loss, it takes a while, really, right?
Hmm.
So that whole first year, in term, you're kind of like really nurturing your patients and stuff. And I have amazing patients. It's the most, I have to say, one of the rewarding things that I've done in my career is putting this business up in the way I'm helping people, I guess you could say. They're very happy. Imagine coming from urgent care. People don't want to be at the urgent care. They don't want to spend their day off in urgent care, right?
Hmm.
But they have to because they're sick or their kid is sick, or they don't, or it's the line is long, etc. It's like they just don't want to be there. But patients here, they come, they want to see how much they've lost. So they want to, tell me like, oh, this is what happened to me. They want to show off to us here with my staff how great they look or how much how great they feel. So again, it's the most rewarding thing. I forgot to mention when I was thinking about this big idea of mine when I pitched it to my husband. He said like go ahead, like he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. He's like, should I do it? Should I do it? And he's like, if you don't do this, this is going to be your biggest one of your biggest career regret. And that like, oh, that stuck to me. I was like, oh, don't say that, because
It's
yeah,
true.
I'm always going to wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always going to wonder. So it was kind of really a challenge, like, what if I fail? It's like, so what? We'll sell our house
Hmm.
or something like that. But yeah, he's always been kind of like, don't do it, kind of thing. So that was kind of nice. But then going back to what you said about the marketing standpoint, it's kind of like don't put your eggs in one basket. So I have Google, I have Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and all those patients that I've treated in the last 2 years are literally my walking billboards when you
Yeah,
look
that's
at
the
it that
best.
way. Yeah. So it's like, wow, you look great. What are you doing? Oh, Dr. Cruz is what I'm doing. Like, you go to her. She's gonna be like, you go to her program, et cetera, things like that. So, yeah, I would say in the last 8 months, it's been like that. It's more word of mouth, and really putting it out there. What I do is really different from what other places are doing, or I don't know what other places are doing, but I feel like I'm doing something different. Perhaps, I don't know. But then I can get into that later on. But yeah,
No,
so that's how I do
I'm
marketing.
actually glad you mentioned this, Dr. Cruz, as far as doing
Mhm.
something different. So if someone is overweight and they obviously want to lose the weight, be healthy, they come to
Mhm.
you, what
Mhm.
do you do? They come in and see you.
Yeah, so basically, in primary care, I did primary care. And I would come into the clinic and I'd look at my schedule and I'd see my schedule. I'm scheduled every 15 minutes. A lot of patients, and I hear this a lot. Like, oh, the doctor didn't even, look at me. It's just in and out, et cetera, things like that. And sometimes it's out of our hands. I can't speak for other doctors, but sometimes it's like that. You get only 15 minutes. If a patient has five things, like five chronic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol issues, maybe even an acute issue at that time, how can you address all that in 15 minutes? The way with care, with being safe, let alone talk to that person. Oh, and by the way, you got to lose weight, you know? So, and a lot of this is really sitting down and counseling and trying to change ways, right? So when I had the vision for this clinic, I wanted to be my way, wherein I could really sit down and take the time with my patients, get to know them, nitpick their habits, their lifestyle, all that stuff. So my patients would come, it's a 1 hour. The first visit is an hour. We do EKG, we do blood work. I get some blood work that typically you don't get from your doctors, and from your primary care. And then I sit down and I go over their medical history, family history. And then we sit down and like, okay, well, tell me what your dietary habits are. Tell me how's your sleep? How do you work? Are you work from home? Are you hybrid? I mean, even that to extent, tell me your schedule or your typical schedule of the day, because those really play a role in your eating habits, and all that stuff. Sleep habits. Sleep is known, if you're not, there's a big correlation between lack of sleep and weight gain. And that's in studies, right? So that would be like the first visit. It's an hour. And then I sit down and formulate a plan. And I tell my patient what works for you may not work for the next person. There's never anybody that has the same plan because everybody's different.
Hmm.
Everybody's lifestyle is different. Um, my first visit, typically with the plan, I only give my patients 5 to 6 things to do, because it's very daunting enough to come to a weight loss clinic and get bombarded with, you know, um, pages after pages of like, you need to do this, 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 and this. You need to exercise this, this, and this. I don't even talk about exercise in the first visit, or
Hmm.
if you're exercising already, please continue that. If you're not moving at all, okay, well, I know, I make a little note that that's the first thing that we're going to do next visit. If you have a patient who's like 300 pounds and they haven't really done any active movement, 4,000 steps a day, if I tell that patient to go to the gym and then like decrease the caloric intake and then nothing after eight and don't drink, I mean, they're like, they're not going to come back. Like, this
Hmm.
doctor's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really just baby steps, I think. It's a baby step already to getting through my door.
Yes.
You know, I really try to have my patient as much as possible. I want you to concentrate on this, 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 and this. That's it. And then I ask them, do you think this is doable for you? Because I can list all make recommendations, but if it's not doable for you, it doesn't make sense either, right? So it's a plan that we formulate together.
No, that's great.
And yeah, if for example you come to me and you tell me, okay, Otto, how much do you drink? Oh, I drink every day, a glass of wine every day. So 7 days out of the week. So maybe the plan would be like, well, how about we cut it in half? You drink maybe 4 times a week, you know? And that's okay. Now, obviously, it's much better if you don't drink, but if you want to, we could do just 4 times a week for now. But you know what? They come back and you could tell the shift in mindset, and they come back and it's like, and I'll ask them that same question. So how many drinks you had last month? You know, this past month? I'm like, actually, I just had one, or maybe like, haven't drank at all. You know, it was really like they get it on their own,
Hmm.
but I give them that kind of leeway we're in. Okay, well, maybe we'll just cut it in half, yeah, kind of thing. So yeah,
That's great.
that would be the first visit. And then I have patients that would come every week and they do accountability. We sometimes do the injections for them. With the weight loss medications, the injections, you could take it home, or we do the injections because we're leery of it. Or some patients just come in for accountability in terms of just stepping on the scale and just seeing how much they weigh. You know, oh, I did. And what I tell patient is that the number on the scale is just a number. There are other ways to know that you're losing weight or feeling better. You know, you feel great, sleeps better, your clothes are fitting. So it's not just, don't get fixated on that number.
Hmm.
That's not the only thing. And then I think it's funny because it's a good in a way where, and I have this passion for like teaching with the residents way back when. And now it's like I'm teaching not residents, but patients now. So I have a board. I utilize it a lot in my office, and I stand up and I write. You know, this is how your glucose works. This is what your gut looks like, etc. Things like that. I pick a topic, whatever comes up sometimes, and explain to them. And I find that when you do that, it makes sense of why they're taking things or why they're eating this and whatnot. You know, to when they understand why, the why part. Why are we doing this? And it sticks better. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And rather than me telling them, this is what
Yeah.
you take. Yeah.
No, I like that. I love that part too. And I'm sure, I mean, that's all part of the plan, right? Because you mentioned injection. So I'm sure part of the plan, and again, I don't know, I'm not a doctor here, a medical professional,
Mhm.
is not to have to be injections for your whole life.
Of course. Yeah.
Of course, right? So
Mhm.
it's about living your life normal without having all this forever, right? The injection part,
Mhm.
at least. So
Mhm.
regarding the injection, Dr. Cruz, are they different injections do you administer? How does that work?
So um, you know, when I sit down, I do talk to them about a lot of the patients, honestly, that come here are about, I would say about 85% of patients are to a point wherein they've tried many things. They've done it on their own. Nothing's working. I just need help. And it's like maybe that next step is the medications, you know.
Hmm.
I do have some patients like haven't tried anything, but really for the most part, a lot of them tried everything. It's like, I just need the help. And they're up to that point in their life where maybe they were resistant to medications, but it's also to a point, well, do I not take it, but then live, you know, unhealthy? What? I don't know. So it's almost like a given when they come here. It's like, I know that's not what they want, you know? And I
Hmm.
feel so, I give them several options. There's many different types of weight loss medications. There's different pills, there's injections. Obviously now in mainstream media, you know, hear about Ozempic, Wegovy, all these injections and stuff. And yes, I do tell patients like, listen, this is a tool to help you kind of navigate what kind of lifestyle. And I really, really emphasize on that lifestyle changes. Um, I actually, I was referring earlier about obesity medicine. Not a lot of people know that obesity medicine is a subspecialty, and there are many obesity medicine specialists. Some have been practicing for more than a decade, and I kind of wanted to. I came back from a conference for obesity medicine, and that gave me such a big boost into like, you know what, we got to get this out there. So with the social media, I was saying earlier, I was like, oh, I don't like social media, but now it's like being embracing it. It's like, well, what if I use that as like, let's educate people more about obesity medicine, you know? So there's a big stigma around that word obesity, right? So how about if we educate them what it is and what that it's not your fault.
Hmm.
There's actually biological, there's science issues, or there's biological factors, environmental factors that contribute to obesity. So that's kind of where I'm at with this thing. It started off with, oh, let me just, rent a space and do weight loss. But it's not just that. Once you delve into it, in the last 2 years, I plug in every week. I listen to podcasts, lectures. I read a lot of books, articles, anything that would really help with me helping my patients. The latest things, I share that. Hey, I just came back from a conference. The three key takeaways of sleep, protein, and exercise. So, it's kind of nice that they know that their provider is being on top of whatever's new out there as well. So, and they appreciate that I take the time to do all that stuff. So that's, I guess what you'd say is one of my selling points, um, because there's a lot of places out there that would just give the medication, but there's no guidance.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like, the medication's there, sure, I'll give it to you, but a big part of it is really trying to figure out the lifestyle change together. Some of my patients are like, Dr. Cruz, just tell me what to do. All right, well, how about we try schedule? This is your schedule of eating, what to eat, etc., things like that. Until later on, they're now navigating it themselves. They come back like, I tried what we did, but I tweaked it a little bit. And I would say, does that work for you? It's like, oh yeah, I like this schedule. Like, oh, we'll stick to that. And by the end of the program, the time that they're with me, they've crafted this like new lifestyle now. I have a patient, she's one of my favorites just because she's just classic. She was 220 pounds, waking up in the middle of the night with bad sugar cravings. And would you believe it, now she is a year and 2 months later, she is 138 pounds. And
Wow.
yeah, 138 pounds. She is plant-based. She is working out 3 times at the gym. And yeah, just change her lifestyle. Like then those are the kind of patient, that's the kind of like, that's why she's one of my favorite patient, I guess you could
Yes,
say.
yes.
Her numbers, her cholesterol was high, her liver function was high, she had a fatty liver. Now I look at her numbers, it's like all absolutely within normal range. Again, it's not that number to scale, but inside as well.
Sure.
You can have somebody who is deemed thin, small, but metabolically inside unhealthy because their numbers are not so great.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I typically do now. Um, I also, in my own personal health, I had been diagnosed with prediabetes, gestational diabetes 10 years ago. So I think also that's one of the things that my patients kind of like, because I went through what they went through. And one of my selling points, I guess you would say, And during COVID, I maintained my prediabetes pretty much within, um, normal range, my numbers. And during COVID, it was very stressful. We were eating very poorly, and I gained a lot of weight. And I didn't realize that my numbers were creeping up, the weight's creeping up. And one day I woke up, it was one of my pivotal moments wherein I worked from 8 a.m., got home at 12:30, I think, and midnight. And I looked at the clock and it was 2 a.m. And in front of me was an empty cup of ramen, empty cup of Ben and Jerry's, and half an empty bag of Smart Pop, uh, popcorn. And I was just like floored. It was like, it was like, wow, this is like my rock bottom moment. What is this in front of
Hmm.
me? And I felt bloated that weekend, and I said, like, I got to do something. So, um, same thing as with patients. I try to do it on my own, and I'm not as young as I used to be, where it was easy to go back and jumpstart. 6 months later, I had lost 5 pounds and gained it back in like, you know, 1 week. And so I went to a good friend of mine and said, I think I need help, and she had prescribed some medications for me to help suppress my appetite and to jumpstart and just really like clean my kitchen with stuff and got really to clean eating and really thinking, okay, what can I do to sustain this kind of lifestyle? I've tried keto, Weight Watchers, all the other stuff, carb cycling and whatnot. And I've found that, you know what, it's what's doable for you. It could be this week I'll be keto, maybe next week I'll be whatever, or that's at least what. So I've crafted in the last 3 years. I keep telling patients like I'm still working at it. It's a constant every day. You have to be mindful of what you're eating to be healthy, and it's not just the weight loss, but being healthy as well. Like I don't want to ever get diabetes. I've seen that in my family. I have a very strong family history. So that first year, I really honed in on my weight loss. Then last year was sleep and a little bit of exercise. I sleep very poorly. So I also worked on that. And then this year was still ongoing, those two things, and but a little bit more of the weight training. Yeah, so it's really baby steps. Yeah, so I was thinking like, well, if I did this and this is how I should, if somebody were to show me that this way, the little baby steps, look where I am now.
Hmm.
3 years, in 3 years, I just literally checked my hemoglobin A1C, which is a blood test for prediabetes and diabetes, and it's back to normal numbers. So yeah, took a long time though. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. I want to be mindful of your time also, Dr.
Yep.
Cruz. So coming to an end here soon, when you're not busy working in your practice, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Um, hmm. Oh, a lot of things. Let's see. We love hiking, yeah, although we haven't done that in a while. We have dogs, so we take the dogs out. We like to go camping, actually, and just around the area, sometimes down south or something like that. What else? I love to read, um, and I like K-drama. I do Korean drama. What else? We're not very sporty, like I said, but hiking and walking a lot. So, and traveling if we can. So that's what
Sure.
I like a lot.
Yeah,
Hmm.
being active is the best.
Yes, yes. And,
Yes,
and trying to get my kids also involved with that stuff. So, but
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I try to do that, walk around the neighborhood with the dog, or my kids also are not the most athletic. I have three boys, but they are in sports, whether basketball or swimming, or they've tried other
Mhm.
things. So I just go out there with them and practice and shoot some hoops or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to, right now we're trying to do a habit where after dinner, we're trying to, it takes a while, right? Sometimes we're always, I think that's the problem is we're always just busy and on the go.
sure.
So sometimes you have to like kind of step back and just, okay, let me just slowly. And that's a hard thing to do. So I was telling my kids maybe after dinner we'll walk around one time around the neighborhood,
Yeah,
and to get them moving too. So they like basketball, so they
yeah,
have a little hoop my husband put, so we play with them.
that's good. So what does the future look like for you and my wellness physicians? What does the next couple of years look like?
Oh wow. I don't know. A lot of things actually. I did notice that just maybe in the next year or two, perhaps, after coming back from that conference, a couple of a nurse friend of mine and a couple of maybe potential patients had called and they wanted some information about what I do, and it was for their kids. So yeah, there's a big population of kids that are larger. So that's one of the things this year I want to hone in more and is maybe learn more about because I'm a family medicine, so I could treat kids and adults.
Hmm.
And I don't have a pediatric patient yet. I have a couple coming up, and so really looking in the community to see where I can refer some of these special patients because they are well, the population is different. Um, and I want my dream is a multidisciplinary team in my clinic, meaning I'll have a therapist who can deal with emotional eaters, binge eaters, food addiction, things like that. I want a nutritionist and physical, maybe a personal trainer
Hmm.
to help with some of my patients. Very basic. It doesn't have to be like really lifting, but imagine these patients, some of my patients, they haven't even moved much or have gone to the gym in years.
Hmm.
So it's really starting out from basic stuff. But yeah, really create a multidisciplinary team and get it out there that obesity is a chronic disease. It's not your fault, and we're here to really help you navigate through that. I have a wonderful team. They're very, very compassionate, sometimes too much. But it's a nice space that we have created. Sometimes we have patients who just pass by, some of our old patients. Like, I miss coming here, and if they're like, because they're here in the village and they're shopping or whatever, they sometimes they just pass by and it's like, hey, guess what? I still haven't gained weight. So or they give us updates. So it's like I said, it's been very rewarding. Yeah.
That's great. If
Mhm.
someone's listening to the Dr. Cruz and want to learn more, where can they reach out? Where can they find out some more information, please?
Yes. So we are located in at the village of Leesburg by Wegmans, see it's easy. And our phone, we have our social media, Facebook, Instagram, My Wellness Physicians. Our phone number is 703-777-9355. You can call or text us. That receives call and text as well. And you can always go to our website, mywellnessphysicians.com.
That's great. Dr. Cruz, thank you so much for coming on today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was nice to kind of share the story.
Definitely. Take care.
Take care. Thank you so much.